Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome, good evening and very warm welcome to the Enabling Festival 2023. We are having our Little Red Cow session live at St. Luke's Community Hospital. This season we are looking at the alchemy of memory. Right, so I have two important people with me this evening, and one is Dr. Cleo as well as Joseph. Right, I will leave them to introduce themselves.
Hello, hi, I'm Dr. Cleo. So I'm one of the family physicians working here at St. Luke's Community Hospital, and I take care of the patients in the dementia ward.
Yep, and I'm Joseph. I'm one of the occupational therapists working at St. Luke's, and right now, most of the time, I'm more involved in home care and some dementia training here and there. Yeah.
Right, so really nice to have you on our show as usual. My name is Daniel, and one of the co-founders of Enable Asia. Since we're talking about scent and the whole idea of memory and scent, maybe I can open up a question, a very simple question, right? Does the loss of smell has anything to do with memory or dementia?
I can take that question. So yes, it does. So in dementia patients, a fair number of them do experience some impairments in their sense of smell. This can be easily explained because the sense of smell or olfaction is being processed by certain parts of the brain. And in dementia, we experience, or our patients experience, degeneration in several parts of the brain, including that involved in the sense of smell. So when these areas of the brain are affected, then things such as even the recognition of smells, or even being able to identify what these smells represent and link them to memories, all these things are affected in dementia.
Right.
So it affects certain types of dementia more. For example, things such as Parkinson's dementia, Lewy body dementia,
right,
and even Alzheimer's dementia.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that dementia, it really affects our ability to smell. So can someone with dementia, I mean, I'm a simpleton at this, right? I want to ask, can someone with dementia still remember how to smell?
Yes, so that's a good question. So although it can be impaired in our patients with dementia, it affects people to different extents. So it doesn't affect everybody with dementia, and even if it affects the individual, it is to different levels of severity. And also it involves different types of smell. So despite these impairments, our dementia patients can still recollect certain smells, especially if it's related to strong memories that they have in the past.
Yeah, I guess just to add on to that, like just echoing to what basically Dr. Cleo said, right? Because I guess a lot of times in clinical settings when we see persons living with dementia, right, a lot of times what stands out to us is actually the emotional memory part of things, right? Where these scents are associated to certain specific memories. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a bad memory, and that's when certain behavior comes out that maybe we want to kind of avoid. Whilst other times maybe it's a more positive memory, right? So sometimes it's associated to like maybe events like Chinese New Year, then you smell the Ang Day, for example, right? And then that provokes.
I smell the Ang Bao Lui.
Yeah. Or even durian, right? Because who doesn't like durian in Singapore?
I know. Not everyone likes durian. So that what I'm hearing is there is a real connection between the scent and memory, and some of it could be triggers for good behavior or exhibiting not so happening behavior as what you're sharing, right? Can you give me a little more deeper insight? So if I want to say that out of all of our sensory experiences, would you think our ability to smell becomes then a very powerful trigger? Because I taste, I can only taste a few things, right? But I can have so many, like today you're putting out orange. I can smell the orange in our setting here. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that connection of smell being one of the more powerful memory triggers. Addressed to either one, right?
Yeah, maybe I can add on to that. So it's interesting that you mentioned taste as well, because actually our sense of smell empowers our sense of taste. You imagine the time if you have a flu or something, suddenly food doesn't taste so good anymore.
I remember COVID-19 where I lost my sense of smell and I felt that the food was just not so nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but even beyond that, as a sense, as one of our senses, the sense of smell is also very strongly linked with parts of our brain, in particular the limbic system. So the limbic system is very involved in the processing of our emotions as well as emotional memories. Right? So as a result, because of these very strong links with our olfactory centers, or rather the centers in the brain that control scent, right? What happens is that scent is a very, it's one of the scents that can really trigger very emotive, evocative kind of memories. So I don't know whether you have experienced before. I think so. I mean, when you eat certain foods that maybe a loved one used to cook for you. Sometimes when you try the dish again, and it can really just bring back a very strong sense of nostalgia, and even sometimes it can bring back the memories associated with that food type that you smell and you taste. Yeah, so that's one thing that's quite unique with the sense of smell. So the same thing happens with our patients with dementia as well. That's why it can be quite a powerful tool that we use to try to engage their emotional memories.
Yeah. So where you got me was you mentioned that a lot of our food memories have a way to connect us with a sense of smell. So when you say that, I have a recipe at home that my ama used to cook for me, and I realized that, Mummy, just not because you're not a good cook, right, but you could not emulate what I'm putting it on live, right? Mummy, it's not because you're a good cook, right, but there's a way that ama cooks it, and it's quite different from the way you cook it. I appreciate both, and I can tell both as well. Whenever ama cooks a certain particular meatball, it smells different, and I really like that smell. And when my grams passed on, we just could not emulate whatever that was outstanding again, and it always brings me back memories. That whenever my mom tries to redo that dish, she kind of fall flat. But I'm putting it on camera now, and just maybe, Mommy, please stop cooking it. Please continue to cook it for me. Right? But that's really what it is. I just want to echo what Dr. Cleo has just mentioned earlier as well. And you mentioned dementia as well. I really want to dig deeper into the dementia smell connection. If you can help me or enlighten. What do you do, right?
I guess it actually is bigger than the sense of smell, right? Because I think a lot of this, as we are talking about this, the examples that we're using, right, were very specific, very unique to each person, right? Which actually, if you think about it, kind of boils back down to their life story, right? Because everyone has a unique life story, right? And then how at the end of the day, how much do we understand of this life story, as the good parts, the not so good parts, and ultimately what are the areas that we want to draw. Right? Because a lot of times, as you guys have rightly pointed out, right, scent has this very strong correlation with memory, right? That especially emotional memory, right? When you smell, maybe the scent of freshly baked bread, right? Then you're brought back to that time when you were 15 years old, right? You were walking down, maybe the old streets of Chinatown, and then you smell the smell of freshly baked bread. Last time we used to use charcoal to coat your toes, right? So all those smells, right? So it's very, as what you mentioned, it's very nostalgic, but at the end of the day, it's kind of, for us to really truly be able to use it well, right, it's also boils back down to how much we know of the life story of the person, right? And then from there, what are the memories and positive emotions that we want to evoke?
So I hear you, right? The personhood of that person is important, right? So to caregivers out there, I mean, maybe a little tip for you is that understand your loved ones and the kind of flavors that they like, because all these will also form part of your family history, family stories, because you never know when you will need to pick up these stories and the smell that is associated with these stories to help trigger the memories of your seniors or the ones that you're caring for living with dementia, right? Yeah. So I just want to ask me, you're working in a hospital. I mean, all I smell is Clorox and bleach. And maybe some Dettol smell. So how does St. Luke Community Hospital help to use scent to engage perhaps the dementia residents that are staying with you?
I guess I'll start a little bit. I guess we basically have this group therapy session called the Gift of Touch. You guys might know it as Namaste Care. Right, so during the session, it's primarily more for persons living with more advanced dementia. Right? If you think about it, our patients who are maybe more bedbound, right? Maybe they don't move as much as they can, right? Or maybe they should, or basically they don't have that much engagement, right? So in that setting, we kind of bring them, as you rightly pointed out, right? That when you come to the hospital setting, there's a lot of sterile smells, right? And it's not just the sterile smells, right? Often because they're not living alone, right?
Yeah.
They're living with neighbors, and then there are other unpleasant smells, right?
Yeah.
Especially when maybe someone has to change diapers, etc., etc., and you're stuck in a setting where there's a lot of distressing smells,
Right.
And often they're very unpleasant triggers. So usually when we're doing namaste care or give or touch, we bring them basically to our activity area where basically I can control the environment a bit more.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so like what you guys are smelling now, the orange scent, right? So we can at least adapt the smell as well. But on top of that, because to be honest, at that stage of the disease, often it's kind of like a little experiment. So it's about us giving them the opportunity to try. So like some of the spices that we have in front of us, or maybe essential oils, or even in the past all the feng yu, right? So just giving them.
I remember the X oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's so many brands, right? You even have Vicks, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So like if we think back in the past, those scents will be familiar to them, right? So and we were talking about how scent sometimes evoke certain memories. Because often with persons living with dementia, they're kind of at a stage where maybe they're not able to say, hey, you know,
there's an in and out experience.
And they might not be able to express those significant memories. Right. So sometimes we use the sense to see whether we can evoke that sense of nostalgia, that sense of familiarity, the sense that, hey, me as a therapist, I'm there with you. Yes, you might not know that this is the hospital, you might not understand why you're here. There might be a lot of lingering anxiety, but then we're using scent, we're using ourselves, our touch, gaze, and speech, right? Basically, just to reassure the person.
So in that moment, you actually had a moment
of
connection with the residents.
Correct.
That you're caring for. Yeah.
Right. So I guess while we were talking about scent, right, it's also more of like a multi-sensory experience, and we're using them all together to kind of awaken the person. Because a lot of times, persons at that stage of dementia, they tend to be more withdrawn. Right, their attention span isn't so good. Maybe if I'm looking at them, maybe we only have that brief eye contact, right? Then after that, they seem to be looking at me, but then they're looking past me. Yeah. Right. So how do we establish that connection?
Yeah. So you're using sense to activate the senses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you were saying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
So that's why when sometimes we do durian parties as well, and those tend to kind of awaken persons living dementia. But I think when it comes to durian, Dr. Cleo has something to say about that. So.
Right, Singapore's favorite fruit, right? The king of all fruits, durian.
Yeah, because her loved one as well, right?
Yeah. So my grandma, for example, like would cheer up and be very, very happy whenever she's given durian to eat.
Right.
Yeah, it's just something that can always stir that positive emotions in her.
Right.
So I'm sure it would do the same for any one of us if we were to grow old and ever develop dementia. So that's something that our family does also use to engage her. I do also want to add on to what Joseph was mentioning about multisensory. I think the other thing about our dementia patients, or the other term is persons living with dementia, is that oftentimes they do need some contextual cues because although they may detect the smell, sometimes they need other things in the environment to remind them what the smell represents.
Right.
So for example, if let's say it is a dish, right, with a certain kind of smell, it would be more helpful if they are in a setting that looks like a kitchen or perhaps like a dining room. So these are other things that we try to do to facilitate that triggering of that memory, right? Because sometimes they can't make that connection on their own.
Right.
Yeah, so in the gift of touch and all that, even as we let them have these pleasant scents to smell, we also do it together with other pleasant experiences like a hand massage, some soft music, things like that.
So to enhance that whole space.
The whole experience, So this is something that caregivers can do at home as well, to create that space that brings out the memories that we want to connect with their life story.
Yeah. I want to shift your attention a little bit because you mentioned there's a place where you do all this intervention. I hear a secret spice garden somewhere around the hospital. Tell me a little bit about this magic spice garden.
Well, I guess it is quite magical in a sense, but it's actually a lot more hard work than magical, I think. But basically, it's downstairs near our fish pond. Right, so you will notice some planters at the side, where basically you have similar to what we have here, like little things that are labeled, right? All the various spices that we do have, right? So normally, there's a few modifications that were made, lah. Right, because usually when you have spice gardens, it's usually kind of on the floor. So you guys will notice that the planters over there were kind of elevated. So like person living with dementia, actually you don't need to be a person living with dementia to access the spice garden. Anyone can go, right? But sometimes people go who are not maybe as mobile as they would like to be, so they're not able to walk, so they're more wheelchair bound. Right? So at least if they're wheelchair bound, they don't really have to reach to the bottom, which is kind of at eye level.
Yeah, so you put it about 90 cm height. Yeah.
And also like wheelchair friendly lah. Right? So that was the idea. So at least you increase the accessibility.
Right.
But the idea also was to maintain a garden with a variety of various spices, right? And edibles as well lah.
Can I eat some? It's almost dinner time, man.
Why not? I mean, you can go for the Indian borage, I guess. I don't know, because a lot of times, as what echoing on what Dr. Cleo said, right? Often it's not just about the smell, right? So for example, if I take out a leaf, right?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can pick your leaf of choice.
Okay, I'll pick this leaf, right?
Yeah. So for example, to add on to the contextual cues, right? Because a lot of times, sometimes we might be tempted to just maybe let the person smell, right? But then often that's not really enough to get that full engagement, right? So normally what we'll do, I'll either do a demonstration first, so I'll exaggerate, right? So maybe I'll take it to my nose and right? So ensuring throughout I'm having eye contact with the person, right? So at least the person knows. Then after that, to enhance that engagement, right? I'll put it in the person's hands, right? Then we'll slowly bring it to the nose. Then we will, so at least you notice that we have multiple cues here. There's the visual cue, the person is looking at me, they saw my demonstration. Then we also have the cue of touch, right? That's the tactile cue, right? Where the person is holding on to something. Because what we believe or what we realize, right, is that if you hold on to something, it becomes that point of reference. Especially with persons living with dementia, where you have inadequate attention span, right? So just focusing it on the person, right? And also basically, if we can, if you notice the spice garden is quite open, right? So usually that's a good thing because generally quite calm, less human traffic, which helps because if there's too many people around, right, that actually creates a form of distraction. Yeah. So controlling the environment as well.
Yeah. So folks at home, right? If you're seeing this, there are different textures. As we feel, I mean, we're actually listening with our eyes. We're actually smelling with our touch, and really literally just smelling it. So when I brought it closer to my nose, I didn't expect the smell to be like that, because it's rubbery. It's can I eat this?
I think you can. I saw patients eat it before.
Really?
Nothing happened.
So live on the Enabling Festival, I'm gonna put this into my mouth and eat it, right?
But I guess as we are explaining this, it might sound like quite common sense also, right? But I guess often it's something that maybe we look past or we don't really notice. It's so simple that we don't understand. And often it's the simple things, the little details that really matter in the interaction with the person.
It feels like rubbery.
Okay,
maybe I will not eat the rest of it.
Yeah.
It smells.
Maybe I should have brought out the mint leaf. That
maybe I could.
Maybe pandan, but
I'm just gonna put it aside, right? But so tell us a little bit more. I mean, like, how about bringing it more closer to home, right? I want to ask something personal for you as well. So, what's your familiar scent that gives you security, comfort? I don't know. I'm gonna open it up to you because for me, the smell of coffee makes me feel secure, because every morning my mother would use a sock coffee. We will still brew coffee from the sock.
Tedious.
And every time she pulls that, the scent, the aroma actually travels around the family home, and that's when I know that it's time to wake up. I'm gonna have my first cup of coffee, and that's mommy's love for me. So I always feel very comforted with that smell, and that's really important for me. So I shared mine, and I want to maybe open it up, because all of us, before being a professional doctor or a therapist, we are humans on our own, right? The person who is important, I want to figure out what works for you, what's special for you. If we could, maybe direct that to our audience. Yeah, she's got more time to think, right?
Okay, first, I guess for myself, I guess we all have various scents that evoke certain memories, and I guess the one that's strongest for me would kind of be the one with my grand aunt, right? Because what usually happens is that the sense for me is the smell of Ang Zhou Teh lah, right? So basically, because whenever we would visit during Chinese New Year, right?
Help me out, because we got non in dialect speaking.
Sorry, Ang Zhou Teh is like red date tea, right? So basically, it's a tea you brew with red dates, and they put longans inside, dried longans as well. And then it's this aromatic, fruity kind of tea with, I guess the Chinese would say it's a bit heaty because that's why you can't drink too much of it. But it has this distinct and unmistakable smell and taste, right? And usually we drink it during Chinese New Year.
The festive
right?
season.
During the festive season, right? Although of course you can drink it anytime you want.
Yeah. Extra special, right?
Yeah, extra special. So
Red dates with ang pao.
yeah, exactly. But I guess because as a kid, right, normally when I went to visit her, we don't really drink ang zhou tea. Like as kids we don't drink because it's actually a drink meant for adults. So that intrigued me a bit more, right? Because as a kid, if you're not allowed to do something, the more you want
to do it, right?
Yeah. So we kids were only left with Yakult, whereas the adults drink ang zhou tea. So it always intrigued me and always made me wanna, like, one day when I come back as an adult, right, to really be able to drink the ang zhou tea. That didn't quite happen because she passed on before that.
Right.
But yeah, that's why I always associated ang zhou tea with Chinese New Year. Yeah. So there's always that sense of nostalgia.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing. And I wanna, you're not spared, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when you come on the
there you
show,
go.
you're gonna share something personal because at the end of the day, all of us have a family at home. All of us are caring for someone else. Tell us your story.
I think for me, it would be herbal soup. I think my grandma used to they used to call it Power Ranger soup when I was growing up because I used to dislike drinking herbal soup, but they named it Power Ranger soup. So as kids, we would always run there because we were idolizing Power Rangers, and then they told us it would make us strong.
Right.
Healthy. So it's one of those things that when I smell it now, so it just reminds me of their love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that when my grandma used to brew it and all that, it was really for us to be healthy. And it's usually associated with our weekly gatherings at our home, where she'll cook a feast for us. That was always delicious. So I associate it with those memories of gatherings, family gatherings, my grandma's love. Yeah, so that's interestingly has become a place of nostalgia, a sense of nostalgia for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on this note, as Dr. Cleo and Joseph have shared, you can find a lot of their inputs as well as other caregivers' inputs on our Padlet session that we have on the QR code right at the bottom here. So if you can find it, please go in and share your favorite scent so that we can continue to keep these memories alive for our loved ones, right? And we're also having the exhibition that's ongoing at this point in time. So visit us on our website and on our Facebook and Instagram and TikTok to figure out where we are so that we can also maybe, when are we having it at the hospital? Right, stay tuned, right, to find out more information about where our exhibition would be. It's going to be across the country. So this is what's different this year with the Enabling Festival because we are traveling closer to you instead of you coming out to the festival, right? And always, we always enjoy your blessings. If you want to continue to support us, please provide us your $1 at our Give Asia website, right? Which is just located here as well. Caregivers, maybe you want to give a little bit of one final word for caregivers. How can you send to go about making their caring experience a better one?
All right.
I'll give you some time to think, right? So
I guess for me, most of the time, because dementia care ultimately is just about one thing, right? It's kind of about quality of life, right? So at the end of the day, when it comes to like a final word for caregivers or about persons living with dementia, right? I guess it's just about understanding their life story and aiming for that positive emotional experience. Because I guess most of the time, as what we were sharing just now when we were talking about our memories, right? And sense, right? A lot of it is associated with family, right? So it helps both the person living with dementia as well as the caregiver, right? Like, because a lot of times I suppose the caregiving journey is a tedious, thankless one in a sense, right? And there are many dark days that come with it. So like those moments where you think back to, hey, that was mom, right? That's why I love her. That's why I'm here. That's why we are doing this journey together, right? So those positive emotions that are linked to the scent, why not?
Yeah. So thank you very much, Joseph.
Yeah, maybe to add on, I think I do want to always start first with reassuring caregivers that you guys are doing a great job. I agree with what Joseph said. It's often a thankless job, and I'm sure for many of you it's been many years of caring for your loved ones with dementia. I think in terms of trying to create that experience for them that is positive with the use of scent, I think what can help also is looking back on your own relationship with your loved one. Oftentimes in your own memories, there are things that you share with them that could give you ideas as to what scents may trigger positive emotions and memories with them as well. And I think in creating that experience, do know it's a bit of a trial and error. Oftentimes, even for us, we take time to figure out what scents work, what kind of multi-sensory experience works. But once you manage to find it, you really get a strong sense of satisfaction when you're able to at least establish a brief moment of connection with your loved one. Of course, I think during those times, sometimes the moments can be very short, but do know that even those short moments of establishing that connection means a lot to your loved one. And it can also be, in turn, a positive experience for you because for that moment you can connect with them again. So I think that's one way we also encourage ourselves when we count our blessings whenever we can manage to find a good scent or experience for them. And it becomes a positive memory that perpetuates, you see. Once you find something, you can keep using it, and after a while, it can continue that good relationship and connection with your loved one, even in the future. Yeah, so that's my word of encouragement. Thank you so much.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching The Little Red Couch as part of the Enabling Festival 2023. Stay tuned for more of what we can offer on Little Red Couch. On this note, I'll say bye-bye.